Right. I think that's a long enough wait. Yusuf, are you ready to begin?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. So let's just start with the introductions first, Yusuf, and I'll
Mm,
just take the lead here. My name is Moneeza Siddiqui, and I'm the tax tutor for SKANS eCampus for the March 25 attempt. My qualifications that I'm a chartered certified accountant, and I also hold the MSc in professional accountancy degree. And I've been teaching different papers of ACCA, but focused on UK taxation for more than 19 years. Now, at any
mhm.
point during the course of the syllabus, you can just contact me at the email ID specified, which is tx@scansecampus.com. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. Okay. Now, given
Right.
that we just have you here today, I'd love to hear a bit more about you, Yusuf. So if you could please take a moment to just introduce yourself, tell me about how much of the ACCA qualification journey you've completed, whether you've studied tax
Mhm.
before or not. Some intro would be great.
Okay, so as you know, my name is Yusuf, and
Mhm.
I recently graduated from Lahore School of Economics. I hold a bachelor's degree and double majors in finance and accounting, and I
Brilliant.
had the first eight papers exempted for the ACCA, and this is actually the first taxation exam that I'm appearing for in the ACCA. And I was lucky enough to be a part of a UK chartered accountant firm during my graduation. I worked
Mm-hmm.
there and I was basically assisting in the preparation of annual accounts and also VAT tax returns. So I'm quite looking forward to this course itself. And I've had the chance to go over some of the introduction videos, and it seems brilliant so far.
Oh, that's good to know. That's excellent. So, bit of a reservation about the fact that this will probably be your first ACC exam that you'll be appearing for, isn't it? But
Correct.
again, given the fact that you've actually got practical exposure in this syllabus or this area itself, so that should
Mhm.
actually tide you over. Not, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So the key for
I
that
hope
would
so.
still be practice, to be absolutely confident about the exam environment. So that's absolutely brilliant. But so yeah, if at any point in time, because while we do realize that tax is, um in itself the first time that the students in the ACC qualification are actually coming across such complex concepts. So we don't really have any, apply foundation level paper for taxation. You just jump directly into
Right.
this. But we do expect that there is certain information that the student or the candidate is bringing from the financial accounting paper. Okay. And again,
Mhm.
because of course you've claimed exemptions based on the knowledge that you've already covered in your previous qualification. So that means that this should not be any foreign knowledge for you. But the good thing is that, of course, like I said, we don't have a foundation level paper for taxation. So we're basically just focusing on your understanding of the different types of businesses that exist, and just have a general idea about the knowledge flow of information in the financial statements. So that will be the core knowledge that we'll be building up on. So
Right.
you should be at par with any other candidate who's actually gone through all of the previous ACCA papers or the previous ACCA exams. The only difference being, as I said before, just the exam environment. And if you've taken out
Mhm.
sufficient time to practice your questions in that environment, you should be good to go, right? No problem at all, hopefully. Fingers
Right.
crossed. Okay, so the objective of this orientation is basically just to sort of, for me to sort of lay down the foundation of, how what the course is about, what are the things, and of course, if you've gone through the introductory videos, you've already a step ahead, because normally when we meet candidates in the next live session, which is the Q&A session, which is again going to be completely open, totally, student led. So it'll be focused on whatever questions you have, whatever concepts you want me to cover. If there's any particular past exam paper question for you that you would like me to walk through. So that would be the purpose of the live Q&A sessions. So what I've done for
Right.
the session today really is just to sort of set down just some foundational points. So some of this might just be things that you've already sort of gone through because you've already started going through the course. But at any point in time, if you have any particular question, I'd be happy to take them on board today as well. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. So just as I mentioned before, in terms of, knowledge that you need to carry forward from previous papers, it's just the financial accounting knowledge. And based on the fact that you've obviously, worked in a professional accounting firm, or you have worked around peers who've actually, pursued the professional qualification, you would have an idea that as far as the ACC qualification is concerned, whatever you cover in this particular paper, which is of course a compulsory paper, that can be built up to the strategic professional paper known as advanced taxation, and you do have the UK variant exam for that as well. But this fall in the options category. So it's not compulsory that you build up on your tax knowledge that you cover in this particular paper. But if you do decide to pursue the ICAW qualification, or of course a career in taxation, then it is highly recommended that you actually develop a very strong foundation for this particular paper so that you can build up in the ACCA advanced taxation exam, and then, pursue the career that you have finalized for yourself. Having said that, of course, from a career perspective, what we normally find in the market, because I deal with the Pakistan market when it comes to face-to-face candidates. So a lot of candidates opt for the advanced taxation exam because it's number-based, and so they're just more comfortable with it. So again, my advice there at that point in time is just make sure that your foundation knowledge for the taxation exam is absolutely spot on, because that will make things a lot easier when you move on to the advanced taxation paper. Also bear in mind that this will not be an immediate follow-on. So given the fact that you're appearing for the taxation exam, you have got 8 exemptions. So you would be moving on to the strategic professional exams fairly early in comparison to other candidates. But then again, a lot of candidates tend to opt for the compulsory papers, which is strategic business reporting and strategic business leader, before, moving on to the optional exams. And with the fact that you're actually appearing for the taxation exam in March 25, which is where the Finance Act of 23 is still in play, what will happen is that any exam, any tax exam that you take post March 25, that will be covering rules of the next Finance Act. So there will be a slight change if you do intend to, appear for the advanced taxation exam eventually. Just putting it out there. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Okay. So, like I said, it's important because if you do decide to opt for the advanced taxation exam, nearly 60 to 70% of what you've covered in taxation will automatically be replicated in the advanced taxation exam. And it's just more the nature of examination that will change rather than the knowledge, because the knowledge will remain the same. Yes, there will be certain additional concepts at the advanced level that you'll be taught at that paper, but it's the way that the knowledge is examined. So at the tax level, it's more about, you're working as a tax assistant or a tax accountant. So you're pretty much, calculating the numbers and putting that, sharing that information. But when it comes to advanced taxation, the nature is that of an advisor. So you're looking at the scenario from a big picture, you're looking at the interaction of taxes, and then you're giving a customized response or customized advice to your tax client at the advanced taxation level. I'm actually very passionate about taxation, so I can talk about it.
That's great.
Never ending. All right, so coming to the syllabus again, since you've already started going through the course, so you've probably have had an idea that these are the core syllabus areas that we'll be covering. Right? So we have the income tax, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, corporation tax, and then comes value-added tax. So this is the sequence that we'll be following for the syllabus course coverage. Of course, again, with eCampus, since it's online learning primarily, and it's designed for your ease. If you do decide that you'd want to go for value-added tax first and then come back to the rest of the taxes, that's absolutely fine, not a problem. So even in the live Q&A sessions, that's one of the reasons why we don't really set a pattern for it, because we're open to any questions from any syllabus area that you might have covered. But logically, what I am assuming, what I'm recommending as of now, as you're preparing for the syllabus for the first time, is to follow this particular sequence. And again, because you've gone through the original video, the introduction video, you'd know that income tax and corporation tax are core syllabus areas when it comes to the marks that are allocated to these topics in the exam. So because they are high
in
scoring
section C.
areas. Exactly. So because there are a lot of marks associated with this, and you'll also find when you go through these separately, that a lot of the concept that you cover in income tax is actually replicated in corporation tax, but again, the perspective changes. So one perspective is the individuals, the other is that of a company. But a lot of things that you cover in income tax and capital gains tax will be replicated in corporation tax. So it's a recommendation that you follow the sequence of the topics that have been laid out in the study platform, the study room. Okay. But when it comes to revision, however, we'll change the sequence slightly. So recommended again. Again, just a guideline that's focused for initially on the taxes on income, which is income tax and corporation tax, then move on to the capital taxes, which would be capital gains and inheritance. And finally, we wrap up with VAT. So we always keep VAT right at the very end because the bare minimum testing of VAT, minimum testing is for 10 marks. It can go beyond that, but not more than 15 to 16 marks. And because it's pretty standalone, isolated tax when compared to the rest of the taxes. And you'll find out that once you've gone through all of them in detail. So you'll find that, VAT is very simple in its approach in comparison to the rest of the taxes. But of course, it's got a lot of, technicality, small technical concepts. Again, your practical experience should definitely more than help you out there. Right. Then we've got the exam. Again, this might be redundant information because you've gone through the video. So I'm just going to bring this up on screen and see if there's anything you'd want me to discuss in detail. So, there'll be 15 questions in section A. There will be 3 cases in section B, and there will be 3 questions in section C. And the one to watch out for is ultimately the 10-mark question, which is going to be the tricky one. Right. So going to the details of each section, we have got 15 OTs. And because this would be your first ACC exam, just giving you an idea that normally the objective type questions can be a drop-down question. It can be a hotspot one, which is hardly tested in the tax exam because we don't really have any diagrams or graphs. So hotspot is normally when you've given a graph and you just have to pinpoint the correct answer. So that doesn't really happen in tax. But we do have hot area. So you could have a table, again, if you've practiced any questions. So you could have, for example, certain statements and you'd have true and false, and you simply have to select the correct area. So that's known as the hot area question. You've got drag and drop, that could happen. Multiple choice questions, of course, that's the standard. And multiple response questions, which is, of course, when the requirement will clearly state in bold how many options you need to select. So it can be select 2 of the following, select 3 of the following. So you just need to make sure that you've got all the options done. Because with section A, you either get the answer right and score the 2 marks, or you get it wrong and you get 0. Right? So you're attempting 30 marks in section A. You have the potential of scoring all 30 marks. But you also have the potential of scoring a lower mark than what you hope for. Because with section A, the questions that come up, they're pretty tricky, not in terms of the examination. Of course, if your preparation is strong, you've practiced enough questions, you'd be okay. But the reason why students or candidates generally find these tricky is because with multiple choice questions, for example, the detractors that we have, the wrong answers that we have, they are very logically deduced. So, if you've missed out one basic thing, so for example, in the income tax computation, if you've missed out the adjustment of personal allowance or the reduction in personal allowance, so they would have provided you with one of the answers, one of the options would actually be an answer based on the student having made the error of not reducing personal allowance. So, it's a very logical answer as well. It's incorrect, but it's a logical answer. So because of that, it does make things trickier with the numbers. Right. And of course, we have candidates who do struggle with understanding what the exact requirement of the question is. So that's another reason why, you have to be a bit careful with the objective type questions. Then, of course, we've got section B, 3 OT cases. You'll have 1 scenario, and associated with that scenario, you'll have 5 objective type questions. Again, the style will vary from multiple choice question to multiple response question, fill in the blanks, etc., etc. So in total, you'll be attempting 15 OTs. So that's 30 marks each again. What is very, very important for this particular section is the questions are all independent of each other. So they will not be relying on the answer that you have arrived at for one of the OTs. So that's a good thing,
Mhm.
because even if you've got the very first OT wrong, it will not have a knock-on effect on the remaining 4 objective type questions that you'll be attempting. And that's a great
Mhm.
thing. If
Yeah.
they are, for example, relying on information that you should have arrived at in the first question. So, for example, work out the taxable income is the first question. And in the next part, they're asking you to calculate the tax liability. Now, of course, the tax liability will be dependent on the taxable income calculated. So, what they'd normally do
Right.
then is they'd give you an assumed figure. So, they'd say, assuming that the taxable income was this, calculate the tax liability. So, again, the independence of the questions will be maintained. Okay.
Right.
Right. Then we've got section C, 3 constructor response questions. First one will cover concepts from any syllabus area. And ultimately, once you've had chance to go through the main syllabus areas, which is income tax, corporation tax, and the capital taxes. So that's pretty much nearly the entire syllabus. I will direct you to have a look at a technical article, which is the higher skills technical article. Because in that article, what the examination team has done is that they've sort of given you a rundown, a summary of how they could present you with different scenarios in section C, which is the 10-mark question, where they'd not be only looking at the simple calculation of tax, but rather the interaction of these taxes. So, for example,
Mhm.
if I were to give you an asset today, so that's a capital asset that's being moved between one individual to the other. So that
Right.
transaction could have a capital gains implication for both of us.
Mhm.
Similarly, it could have an inheritance tax implication as well. So while individually the questions that will be tested, they'll be focusing purely on either capital gains tax or inheritance tax. This question brings it together. So they might have this scenario where Breeze is given this asset to Yusuf. So what are the CGD implications? What are
Mhm.
the IHT implications? Walk us through that. So it could be numbers as
Right.
well as narration, but that's where, the interaction of taxes comes into play. And so this question will basically be a one that you would be attempting after you've gone through a majority of the syllabus. Okay. So
Mhm.
this is very, very
Right.
interesting. It's actually giving you a flavor of the type of questions you'd find in ATX, the advanced taxation paper, because that's where
Mhm.
it leads you to start thinking from an advisory perspective, right?
Right.
And as we already know, 2 and 3, 15
Mhm.
marks, one from income tax, the other from corporation tax. So that's that. eCampus Study Sport, again, a redundant information because you're already going through this. Right, you've got the course plan, which is
Mhm.
basically the sequence of the topics. You've got the knowledge recordings. You also have access to the PowerPoint slides. There will be topic-wise practice sets and technical articles that will be linked. So rather than going to the ACC website, you should be able to find the relevant technical article link in the study room itself.
Mhm.
And we've sort of linked it at the appropriate place where you feel right now that you've gone through the knowledge recordings. Just have a read through the relevant examination article, and as sort of, making you familiar with how the examination team thinks or approaches the questions.
Mhm.
Then we'll have the live online session. So apart from the orientation one, we've got 4 planned, 3 during the sequence of your course coverage. And the 4th one will
Mhm.
technically be after you've attempted the mock exam. And as I've mentioned
Right.
before, the objective is, you know, open ground,
Mhm.
open area. You've got the option, ask away any question that you have related to taxation. And of course, there will be
Right.
assignments. So do attempt them because they're marked if you submit them within the relevant time frame. And then in the
Yeah.
revision phase, we've got the mock exam. We will have a mock exam debrief video provided as well. And as I mentioned before, we will have a wrap-up live online Q&A session. Okay?
Right. That's great.
Mm, these are the further support aspects that are available. You can correspond with me at any given point in time on the email ID I shared before, which is tx@skansecampus.com. I do normally respond in detail, right? So don't worry if it's a numerical question that you want me to walk through or anything. I'd be happy to have a look at it. And if it's getting too complicated to communicate on email, we'll just wait for the live online QA session. You can leave comments on the knowledge videos as well. That also comes through to me as an email, and I'd be more than happy to respond to that. You've got the chat feature that doesn't operate with respect to me, but that's for any peers, any study buddies that you want to set up. You've got the dedicated counselor support. So Safi should be available to provide you any support that you need. And of course, you've got the technical support as well. Yep.
Right.
And just putting it out there. Yeah, these are the ACCA study support options. So you also have the study hub. I haven't specifically mentioned that. You've got a lot of information available on the ACCA study hub. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity of actually going through that or not. So, that is also one more material that you could actually go through if you would like, after having gone through the
Right.
ACCA recordings and everything. So that pretty much is what I wanted to sort of run through for the orientation today. And it's over to you. If there's anything that you'd like to ask, anything that you'd like to discuss, more than happy to answer.
No, I really appreciate you taking out the time to go through all this, and I think I'm good for now. And I think as I go through the lecture recordings or those videos itself, only then I'll be able to, figure out where I lack or, accordingly reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be looking forward to any any email or any connection correspondence that I receive from you. Just bear in mind, is this the only paper that you're taking up for March 25, Yusuf?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, perfect, brilliant. Well, at the end of the day, it's the objective is just practice. Just, as soon as you've gone
Right.
through knowledge video, just make sure that you've practiced enough questions. You can
Mm-hmm.
also access the Kaplan kit. So for the
Mm.
approved study text that we have, for taxation, we normally recommend Kaplan. I
Right.
personally feel that it's much more user friendly. So with the Kaplan kit, you will find that again, they have picked up the past exam paper questions, and that's evident from the index. So when you look at the table of
Mm-hmm.
contents, where they've sort of, first of all, they've obviously split the questions between the different syllabus areas. So you'll have income tax and you'll have all the past exam paper questions, a significant number of past exam paper questions from the income tax syllabus area, and then CGT, then IHT, then CT and VAT. And you'll have all the different forms as well. You'll have Section A type questions, Section B type questions, and constructive response questions. But as you look at the table of
Right.
contents, you will find that next to the name that has been assigned to the question, they will have mentioned the past exam paper attempt that it actually was tested in. So you'll have, for
Mm-hmm.
example, June 20. So that particular question did come up in your actual past exam paper that was set for the June 2020 exam date. And where it's
Mm.
blank, then those are the questions where the Kaplan team has sort of developed those questions themselves. So it's good practice, but if you ever find yourself pressed for time, the advice is always to focus on the questions that have actually come up in the past exam papers, right? So because that will
Right.
give you a clearer idea of how the examination team thinks. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Right. Brilliant. Okay. So well done. If there's nothing further that you'd like to discuss with me, I'd be happy to end the session and look forward to, working with you as you cover the tax syllabus.
Sure, I feel the same. Thank you very much.
No problem at all, Yusuf. All right. You have a good day then. Take care.
Thank you very much. You too. Have a good day. Bye bye.